Welcome to an encore edition of Loup TV, and riding on the rails of yesterday's edition, which was 3.0, is the foundation of the metaverse. We talked about the 3.0 debate, a little bit debate between Elon and Jack Dorsey. And today's edition really zooms in on Jack Dorsey's thoughts, does a deeper dive in some of the conversation Jack Dorsey has taken to Twitter, and the reason why it hit the threshold for Loup TV worthy is a comment that Doug had this morning, which Doug called this the most entertaining thing that he's seen in crypto all year. As a reminder, we're at the end of the year, so that was a high bar, and it cleared it, and here we are. So let's take the approach of trying to really build this discussion from the ground up. And a good starting point before we get into what Jack is saying is a reminder what Web 3.0 is.
Yeah, Web 3.0, I would say, is largely built on crypto protocols. So, you know, the ethos of decentralization is at the heart of Web 3. And really what it's all about is creating systems that can't tell the users what to do. Sort of censorship resistant systems that operate separately from any centralized governance point. So you could think of it this way. Facebook, and we've seen challenges with Facebook and Twitter, Jack Dorsey's former company, where they are a centralized point where people can go to connect. So if you decide that you want to use Facebook services, Twitter services, they have rules, and they can decide to kick you off the services, which we've seen happen. They can decide you can't say certain things on the service. And on Web3, where you think about like a decentralized world, there is no central authority. There's no governance board of Twitter that says what can or can't go on the system. The system is governed by the users itself. And so that is kind of the core difference, is that you have centralized, which is really Web 2, Web 3 is decentralized. And in my view, the value that Web3 provides that's really unique is this idea of sort of ownership or unalienable rights to the users of the system.
Where we left off yesterday, that being that structure is the foundation of the metaverse. We believe in the metaverse longer term. Let's focus in on Dorsey's comments specifically. What is he saying? Well, we'll just start with the basics. What is Jack saying?
The comment started as sort of a criticism that maybe veiled a question, which was that basically we think about Web3 as this world where the consumers, kind of the users, own the system, they own the protocol. And Jack said, VCs are basically funding the entire creation of Web3. And how can the users sort of own the system if it's backed by institutional money? And I think that's a fair criticism. It is a fair question. And I think
let me back up a little bit. Is that it's even though it is decentralized, the tools to build those environments, some of the brands around the decentralization are being funded by the venture community, and the venture community will profit from that.
That's correct. Yeah. And so maybe just separating a few things, you have, I think, probably the core protocol, if you will, core layer of Ethereum, which is fully decentralized. It wasn't funded by VCs. And it is probably the most prominent, or not probably, it is definitely the most prominent of kind of the Web3 protocols. It is built on decentralization at its core. There have been other competing protocols that have been funded by venture money that some people debate whether they are overly centralized or if they're decentralized enough. So those are some examples of where VC money has gone, creating alternatives to Ethereum. Other places that VC money has gone has been to create things that live on top of Ethereum, on top of the Ethereum network, and offer users sort of entry points into this decentralized world. And I think that's where, again, where Jack comes in, where he says, okay, if you're built on top of this Web3 decentralized network, but then you're accessing it through something that is very much centralized, can the users really enjoy what the philosophical groundings of Web3 is, which is that, the users should be the owners of the protocol. They should enjoy sort of the success of the things that happen on the protocol.
So maybe one example of this would be Coinbase, an example of a company that's been funded by venture, rides on top of the decentralization.
Correct. They are a centralized access point. And I think that for me, the whole VC thing that Jack has brought up, I think what he kind of seems to be saying is, I believe in decentralization more than you. Like, he has made a very big point about how he loves Bitcoin and how he thinks that it's probably the most important thing in the world right now. He said even before that, if you were starting all over today, he would stake his career on Bitcoin. So I think he is a true decentralization believer. And what I almost feel he's doing is sort of saying, hey, all of you other people in this ecosystem in Web3, you claim that you believe in decentralization, but your actions speak louder than your words. The way that you are sort of constructing these companies is in a more centralized manner. My argument is, I don't know how much it matters. I think that people want choices. I think sometimes a centralized choice might make more sense in terms of how people access Web3, and sometimes a decentralized choice will make more sense. And I think people will have options. So to your point about Coinbase is, a centralized way for someone to go and buy crypto to, get and participate in Web3, or even as sort of an entry point into the metaverse. But people can also use alternative decentralized ways to do the same thing. So you can go and you can use Uniswap, which is the biggest decentralized protocol out there for autonomous market making. And so if people don't want to use Coinbase because they feel strongly that decentralization is very important to sort of maintain, the freedoms that they want to adhere to, they can go and use those solutions. So I think we're going to have a world where both of these things exist. And the VC money, to me, is pushing innovation. I don't think it's evil.
So really, Jack's issue is less about venture money. It's just the concept that certain groups can benefit more than other groups than the average person. That is his philosophical. That's his, holier than now stand. Agree or disagree, just for the sake of clarity here. That's basically what he's saying, is we shouldn't have a certain group of people take an outsized return on decentralization.
I don't even know if he's saying that we shouldn't have it. I think he's posing the question, and it almost feels to me like he's sort of pointing out a hypocrisy, which is the loudest voices in the Web3 world, the Web3 discussion, mostly happen to be people who are VCs or investors in these companies.
Right.
And I think he's sort of just saying, hey, you're funding this future, this Web3 future that is supposed to be built on decentralization. It's supposed to be built around the idea of people sharing in the success, the users sharing in the success of these products. And you're a venture capitalist that needs to financially benefit from this. So, how do you reconcile that? I think he's sort of being critical, but he has a question underlying his criticism that I don't think has been answered yet, by the way, by the Web3 community. It feels like most of it has just been turned back on Jack and been, critical of things that have happened at Twitter, which has been fair criticism. But I haven't seen anybody offer a strong response as to, why this funding is not necessarily evil, which I don't think it is. I don't think there's anything nefarious there at all. I think it's just pushing innovation in aggregate, and you're going to have innovation on both sides that's going to be good for the users. And that's what's great at the end of the day.
Let me take the side of the decentralized innovation will come through a decentralized movement. And I'm having a flashback to Dr. Goldstein's, my 9th grade science class. So it's dated. I'm 50 years old. That was a long time ago, but a phrase just popped in my head, is the second law of thermodynamics. And if I loosely remember it, it was that force, if not acted, an object, if not acted on by a force, will naturally gravitate to chaos. And the basic idea is that for things to move forward, there needs to be order around it. And so a question, I could have gotten that whole definition wrong. I'm sorry if I did, but the point still stands, is, can a decentralized, is it an oxymoron to think that a decentralized platform can advance on its own?
I don't think it is. I mean, I think that the adherence to the decentralized ethos would point to probably Ethereum or Bitcoin and say, neither of these products took any venture funding. They bootstrapped and found ways and sort of enticed communities to believe in the power of what they created. So I do think that decentralization, just because something's decentralized doesn't mean it doesn't have leadership necessarily. I think it sort of means other things. I think it means that you're sort of reliant very much then on the goodness of the community to make sure that the protocol does what the users want it to do. Like, it's self-governing. That's kind of the point of these decentralized things. And so certainly I think you can end up with chaos, to your point. And that may be the true danger of decentralization, is that if you don't have a very prominent leader, they may devolve into chaos in ways that we're not aware of. But I think the same thing can happen with centralized things. I mean, the history has probably been built on chaos created by centralized organizations.
Yeah, I think of Android would be an example.
I mean, I think that we need a mix of centralized and decentralized tools is the bottom line. And I think that VCs are going to be a part of creating this future. I think that decentralization is, the crowning and absolutely most necessary piece of Web3 for it to work. We need that. We have that with Ethereum, in my view. And so everything else to me is sort of semantic. I think at the end of the day, we just need more great experiences built on top of Web3, whether that's things that are backed by VC money or things that, the community backs somehow and people bootstrap. Doesn't really matter. We just need more of it. So it's not just hype.
Well said. Well, if you were really paying attention, you could have connected the lead to this Encore episode. At the top, I mentioned Doug said this morning that this was the funniest thing that he's seen in crypto all year. If you've been listening, it doesn't really seem like it's very funny, but that, I guess, is a reflection of humor at Loup and give you an insight in terms of the types of things that we find funny. Thank you, Jack, for entertaining us. Thank you, Doug, for enlightening us. And on behalf of Doug and I and Loup TV, bye for now.